Hello to all my viewers, and a very warm good morning to my esteemed guest who has joined us all the way from the Silicon Valley of California. I am Zeba. Welcome to the seventh session of Parwaaz Forum on the prestigious platform of Asian Literary Society, and I am honored and privileged to introduce my distinguished guest, Mr. V.R. Ferose. V.R. Ferose is a senior president of SAP SE and the head of SAP Academy of Engineers based in Palo Alto, California. He is also a founder of India Inclusion Summit, started in 2012, that aims to bring the topic of inclusion to the forefront in India. Feroz teaches personal leadership in Columbia University, New York, and is a columnist for Forbes, New India Express, and Mint. Feroz has co-authored many best-selling books, and today he is with us to talk about India's first non-academic book on disability, titled Invisible Majority: India's Abled Disabled, which is launched on 3rd December 2021 on the occasion of World Disability Day, whose foreword is written by His Holiness the Dalai Lama and afterward by M. Venkaiah Naidu, the Honorable Vice President of India.
Thank,
Firoz, first of all, I'd like to congratulate you for writing this much needed, full of endless information book.
thank you.
Welcome, Firoz.
Thank you so much, Zeba, for your beautiful introduction. And thank you to the Asia Literary Society for giving me the platform to share more about the book and really about the mission of making India inclusive. So, firstly, thank you for hosting me. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Welcome, Mr. Firoz. So let's start the session. We have got very less time and we have got to learn so many things from you.
Thank you. Thank you. Looking forward.
What inspired you to write this book? And what was that moment that made you think that I need to write this book?
So, I'll tell, allow me to go a little, rewind a little bit and share how I started my journey in the disability sector. I really had no connection with disability until in 2010 when my son Vivan was diagnosed with autism. He was at that time 18 months old. And like every parent, you go through your motions of denial, of anger, of a sense of helplessness to finally acceptance. And for me, that real defining moment was when my mentor, Dr. Kiran Bedi, whom all of us have grown up with her as a role model. And I was very fortunate to have worked with her very closely in my capacity as head of SAP. She really, one of the days, called me and asked, what happened. I literally gone into a shell, not been in touch with people. And she called me and said, Firoz, what happened? Why this radio silence? And she said something which was incredibly profound, which really changed my life. She said, Firoz, most people spend their entire lifetime not knowing what their purpose is. You're incredibly fortunate that the purpose found you.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think that sentence literally changed my life. It was like a switch from seeing myself as a victim to seeing myself as somebody who is in a position where I can probably contribute to the community. And I really think that I'm extremely fortunate that I was in a position where I was heading a large multinational like SAP in Bangalore. I had access to people, I had the financial means, and I said, while I will obviously take care of my son, which is my primary responsibility, I'm also in a position to give back to the community of people who are maybe much less fortunate than I am. So that for me was really the start of the inclusion of really my mission of spending the rest of my life focusing on people with disabilities and really trying to see what is it that can be done to lift them up. And so we started very small. Obviously I didn't know what to do. I mean, it sounds good, but what do you do with it, right? And so that's how various activities were kick started way back in 2010, including hiring people with disabilities, including starting the India Inclusion Summit, which is now gone on to become probably one of the largest forums for people with disability. But I'm also a core believer on the power of words. I've been a writer, I've been a columnist for many years now, and believed that change can also happen by spreading awareness, and awareness can happen through various mediums, right? Awareness can happen through movies, awareness can happen through sports, can happen through literature, and so I've been focusing a lot on writing as much as I can about people with disabilities to spread awareness. So my first book was called Gifted, which is basically inspiring stories of 15 people with disabilities. The second book is called Grit, the Major Story, which is the entire life journey or an autobiography, which is in a graphic format of Major D.P. Singh, who's a war veteran who lost his leg in the Kargil War. And this book
Hmm.
was primarily written to give a holistic picture of disability in India. And I felt that there was no such book that had been written before. I mean, people write the personal memoirs of their journeys in the disability sector, but I haven't seen an end to end point of view. And it created a certain framework where I said, if you want to have an end to end approach from cradle to grave, what are the various sections that you have to go through? And that included awareness and advocacy and education and employment, early interventions, and all the way up to assisted living. So I really wanted to cover the entire gamut of disability. And really, one of my core ideas, Zeba, was that to make it easy to read. And I really believe that true change will happen when more people without disabilities understand the disability sector. Like
Right.
you and me, we have no choice. We are invested in disability because our children, our loved ones are affected by it. But really, change happens when more people who have no connection with disability understand this. And hence, I've often said, for me, the success of this book will not be whether it sold more copies, but it would be if more people who have no connection with disability read the book. That for me would be the major success criteria. And so I wanted the book to be accessible, easy to understand, and I hope, again, I don't know, it's just 1 week since it's in the hands of the readers. I hope it resonates with every reader, not just people in the disability sector.
Right. Your book has already been in the hands of the Vice President, Dr. Kiran Bedi, Malvika Iyer,
Yeah.
and lots of renowned personalities. And while writing this book, whom you thought to be your target readers? Because basically, most of the authors they don't touch this topic because of they don't have this confidence कि whether this book will be commercially successful or not.
Yeah.
But while you were writing this book, have you thought कि who will be your target readers?
So,
Because
very,
I know you don't believe you don't need any commercial success for this book. I know that
yeah.
you don't need that.
Yeah, no, I think a very, very good point, Zeba. And this, as I said, this is my third book, and all the books that I've written have been in the disability sector. And it's very interesting that every time I go to a publisher and say, I want to write a book on disability, the first response typically is, it's a non viable sector, right? Why don't
Right.
you write a book on leadership? Because it's maybe, I've been in the corporate world for very long, and they think that leadership is a book I should write about. And my simple response is, everybody writes a book on leadership. Nobody
Hmm.
writes a book on disability, or very few people write a book on disability. So honestly, if you just look from even a commercial space, writing on disability is a smart idea because not too many people write there, so it's not a crowded space. So, but again, for me, disability is something that I'm passionate about, and my core belief is that it has to be a commercially successful book because it only indicates that more people have read it. You can write a
Right.
great book, but if only 20 people have read it, honestly, it doesn't help spread awareness. And my mission is really to spread awareness across the 1.3 billion people in the country, and so you have to make it commercially viable. So it's very important, and that's what I said. I don't want this to be limited, to the, at least as per the Indian census, 2.2% of the population was affected by disability. I want this to be in the hands of as many readers as possible. And so commercial success is very important, not because of financial means, because as I said, all the books that I've written, all the royalties have gone to causes of persons with disability. And I
Wow.
also believe that if you write a good book, it will be commercially viable. Of course, you have to market it and so on. My first book was a bestseller in less than 3 weeks. This hit the Amazon bestseller list, and it's still the number one after the third day, even though it was not released. We did a pre-order 3 weeks, 2 weeks before the launch, and it is still the number one on Amazon in its own category for almost, I would say, 4 weeks now. So I think commercial success is important, not because of the money, but because of the mission that we are out there to spread awareness about disability inclusion.
Right. That's true. I agree with you. And this title is very capturing. Invisible majority.
Yeah,
I have seen, I have read the reason behind this title, but I want you to tell my viewers what's the reason behind keeping this title of the book.
very good question. And, you know, titles are very important. There's a saying that people give you only 8 seconds on the title of a book. So it has to be catchy and it has to look good. So we did spend a lot of time thinking about it. I'll give you the reasons why I called it the invisible majority. It's called invisible for four reasons. First, as per the census, as I said, the number of people with disabilities in India is 2.68 million, which is, sorry, 2.2%, which is
Right.
26.5 million. That is usually undercounted. The World Health Organization number says it's 15%, 1 billion people. So the first reason is it's massively undercounted. So my question is, if the world average is 15% and India is 2.2%, the remaining is invisible. Where are they? Why are we undercounting? That's the first. The second reason is lack of accessibility, right? If there is no accessibility, people with disabilities are not seen. They're not able to go out. They're not there in public discourse. And so that's the second reason, that lack of accessibility makes people with disabilities almost invisible in the public discourse. The third reason is a sense of taboo, right? We as a society, especially in India, don't want to speak about disability. I'm now based in the US and I see that disability is not even a topic because it's seen as, I would say, what you call as typical. It's pretty common to have people with disabilities, and society has included them in various forms. But in India, it's still seen as a taboo. People don't want to speak
Right.
about it, and hence, I think it's also invisible. And the last, which is, I would say, primarily because topics of mental health have now come to the forefront. India has probably one third of the world's large, population affected by mental health in India, and mental health is invisible, right? If you see a person with depression, you can't make out that he or she is depressed. Sushant Singh is a classic example, who,
Right.
who unfortunately died because of depression. How would you know that he has any form of disability? So I think in many forms it is invisible. Now the question is majority, and I must confess I used a little bit of playing around with words to use the word majority, because they typically talk about disability being the largest minority in the world. Because of 15%, it is the largest minority in the world.
Right.
And you know what? Everybody can be part of that minority because you can't choose. If you are a minority because of religion, maybe you are part of it because you're born in a certain family. Disability is acquired. You can be part of the minority. But I also felt that if you put the word minority, it'll attract very few people. And what I
Mm.
found was when you look at 15%, if you actually look at the impact of disability, it really affects the direct family members very closely. So, you have a son who's disabled. You are not disabled yourself, at least in the definition, but you're affected by it. I'm not so-called disabled, but my son being disabled affects me, my wife, my in-laws, my parents, siblings. So what I found was that on an average, a person with disability affects at least three family members very closely. So if you just take 15% and extrapolate it to the three people and add another 45%, it's 60% of the world's population is directly affected by
And
disability.
that what makes us majority.
That's the majority. If it's more than 50%, it's a majority, right? And so I really believe that it is a majority, and that's why I call it the invisible majority.
That's true. It's we are majority, still our children they are invisible.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
That's true. So such an intriguing title. Very very capturing.
Thank you, thank you.
This book is full of endless amount of information.
Yeah,
What are the key takeaways from the book?
one of the main purposes of writing the book, other than kind of giving picture and understanding of the disability sector, was also to educate them on the rights of our very progressive law which was made in 2016. So the
Right.
Rights of People with Disabilities Act is probably one. I've studied the laws and the rights of different countries, and I found that India's RPDWA Act is really, the PWD Act is really progressive, but very few people know about it. And and if people don't know what the rights are, I don't think they will earn their space in the society. And so for me, it was
Right.
very important to explain that. So if you look at the appendix, I've tried to summarize the rights in 10 very simple points. And the reason I wanted to do this is that if you actually read the document, it is a very long, complex, I think it's 32 pages if I remember, the entire legal document. And nobody wants to read a legal document. And I said, how can I bring this document to the forefront of the people in extremely simple forms? Just to give you an example, one of the things the law says is that if you ever mistreat a person with disability, it is seen as a criminal offense. So you can
Criminal.
actually go to jail for 6 months, which is
Right.
not there in most laws across the world. So it's a very progressive law. I think the problem is the implementation of the law.
Implementation. Right. Right.
If somebody asks me, Firoz, what is the one thing you need to do to change disability in India? I would only say implement the goddamn law. That's it. Don't try to add one more law, and there's no point. We could come up with a much more progressive law 2 years from now. It's not going to help change the narrative unless you implement the law in its true spirit and intent.
Right. That's even I believe. Our laws are very progressive. Even I have been through all those acts and laws of PWDs, but it's hardly being implemented either in the education sector or in the employment sector or in general in the society sector. It's
Yeah,
hardly implemented. The reason is we are not aware of our rights.
exactly.
It's not the problem of government. Government has done their job. They have made the laws. We
Yeah,
are not aware of our rights.
exactly. And that's, I think so my understanding, Zeba, is that true transformations will happen when there is enough awareness in the society. That's kind of the
Right,
common denominator. If people are not aware, things are not going to change. And so the purpose
right,
of
right,
writing the book was also to spread awareness amongst the general population. As I said, you and me are forced to know about it because of our own personal situation. But when people are aware, more and more people are aware, I think that's when change happens. One step at a time. It's a very slow process. We are talking about a complex problem. It will take probably my lifetime and maybe yours too. But that's how change happens, one step at a time.
True, true. Before I move back to your next brainchild, Autism at Work, I'd like to show just a trailer of your book to my viewers.
Yes, thank you.
If you were given a chance to speak to the world, what would you say?
If I were given a chance, I would ask people to stop looking at me differently. Like, when I walk into a room, I know people take notice. For a moment, they go quiet before I can hear the whispers. I may be visually impaired, but I can feel every eye. I wouldn't want people to tell me how inspired they are, how proud they are of me for every little thing that I do. Because I'm not doing anything different. I'm just living my life like everyone else does. Don't put me on a pedestal just because I'm a person with a disability. Just let me be a part of the world as much as you are.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you for showing that, Zeba. I really appreciate.
Thank you so much. Now I'm coming to your next project, Autism at Work, which is enabling 1 million job globally for people with special need. And you are already hiring special need individuals at SAP.
Yeah.
What are the negative attitude and perception of the abilities of disabled people that you'd like to clarify based on your experience?
Yeah. So, I've also written about this in the book, and there's a term which is called cool abilities. And my mission was to um, reverse the stereotypes that we have of people with disabilities. So, if you look at the word ability, and I always say, let's look at the word ability and disability and try to understand and explain this to people in a fundamentally different form. The opposite of disability, if I ask to people, what is the opposite of the word disability? They will say ability, which is not true. My understanding, and this is where I said the opposite of disability is cool ability. Let me explain that. Cool ability is basically enhanced ability in a disabling condition, which means that
Wow.
if you're not able to see, then you have better hearing abilities, right?
Right.
So you have an enhanced hearing ability if you are visually impaired or blind. And we found that every disability comes with an enhanced ability. If you're on the autism spectrum, if you are sorry, if you are, just give me a second, sorry. Um, if you're on the autism spectrum, then you see that you have an enhanced ability for eye for detail, right? If you for whatever reason have lost one arm, you will realize that the other arm is much more used and so much more stronger.
Right.
And we found that all disabilities have a corresponding enhanced ability. Okay. And so we said, instead of looking at the negative aspect, can we look at the positive aspect? And so that is what we've been trying to do, including with hiring people on the autism spectrum, which is the Autism at Work program. We said, don't focus on what they can do, focus on what they can do. And not just they can do, but they can do better than the others. And so when we hired the first 93 employees at SAP, we were able to prove with data over a period of 1.5 years that the people whom we have hired on the autism spectrum were actually better than my so-called typical engineers. And so we had data.
Wow.
So they were able to have, do better test cases, had higher accuracy, and very interestingly, where the most honest people never lied, had the best attitude. So my big question was, if we can hire, corporates, a lot of time we hire people with bad attitude. I said, here are the people of the best attitude in the world. Also, they are able to deliver more, right? So why wouldn't you have people with so-called enhanced abilities for specific needs?
Hmm.
They have challenges, but if you can give them reasonable accommodation, I think you can overcome. And there is a business benefit. So my core belief is that we shouldn't treat hiring of people with disabilities as an act of charity, but it has to be positioned as something which improves businesses. Because see, I come from the corporate world. It's pretty clear to me that charity by itself is not scalable. If you want to scale and have more people who are employed, then you have to show that they are better than the so-called normal people, if not better, at least as good, right? And then only there's an incentive to have people with disabilities. So when SAP made the landmark announcement in 2013 that we'll have 1% of our global workforce of people on the autism spectrum, no corporate had made such a massive commitment of hiring 650
Right.
people. And now we have people on the autism spectrum in 10 different countries, 20 locations. We've hired more than 220 people, full-time employees, another 200 part-time employees. Autism is
Wow.
Work is now a program at least in 100 different organizations, from Microsoft to IBM to Ernst and Young to JP Morgan. All the large companies have an autism at work program, which I'm very proud to say started during my tenure at SAP. It is in fact a Harvard case study right now,
Wow.
written in 2016, about how people with disabilities can provide business benefit. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, the journey of autism at work. And I'm still actively involved as a chairperson of Specialist Turn, whose mission is to create 1 million jobs for people who are neurodiverse.
Right. I think you have shaken the whole corporate world and have awakened them. And you have changed the narrative from disability to everybody has got some abilities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You
You
have
know, sometimes
completely changed that narrative.
I say it is our inability to see the abilities in so many people. It is हमारी प्रॉब्लम है कि हम लोगों में उनकी एबिलिटी खोज नहीं पा रहे. उनकी प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, राइट? अगर वो बात समझे, if you understand that and try to look for the best in people, I think everybody can contribute, at least in a meaningful way, to the larger society.
True. My next question is, there are few companies who have started employment of person with special needs in India, and
Yeah,
those are far and few.
yeah.
How can we make your company as a role model for others and convert it into a big movement for generation of employment?
Yeah, I think there are two ways to look at it. As I said, first is to fundamentally change the narrative and say hiring people with disabilities makes business sense. Okay. Do not do it because it looks good, it helps me fill a certain number of quota, it looks good for diversity and inclusion. If you do for that intent, you will not scale. You have to say that, this is good for business, because if it's good for businesses, corporates are incentivized to hire people with disabilities. So that's the first. The second, which I found, which is super important, is to role model it. Okay, it has to start with the leaders. Agar, I've always, there's a funny thing that happened once when one of the CEOs invited me to the company and said, "I want to hire people with disabilities. Now, what should I do?" I said, "You should be the first person to hire a person with disability in your team. If you do it, others will do it." When I started the Autism at Work program, the first thing I did was hire a person on the autism spectrum in my office. They said, when I do it, then others have the permission to do it themselves. If you
Right.
cannot do it and you say सब लोग करो, कोई नहीं करने वाला है, ठीक है? So leaders have to lead and walk the talk, because once leaders do it and role model it, it is much easier to do it. So that's been my core insight, that you have to first walk the talk. And the last thing is, of course, to make awareness within the company, because people are not aware. So we have run a lot of programs to sensitize people. And also, of course, last but not the least, you have to make reasonable accommodations, because many of them, for example, many of my people who are on the spectrum, they're not able to work 8 hours because it can be extremely tiring and overwhelming for them. So can you make some accommodations that, they can work for 6 hours, and and that's fine, and have a buddy system, so that if they have some challenges, there's somebody who understands the needs of the people. So it's a multi-pronged approach, Zeba. You just can't say I will hire people and the problem is solved. There's a multiple things that needs to be done. But you know what? At the end of the day, what we found is, if you do it for the right reasons, if you do it well, it elevates everybody in the team and the organization. I found that the team that hired people who were disabled actually had higher engagement than the teams that didn't. And there's data to show that, which means people felt a sense of camaraderie. People felt good about working for a team and an organization that was compassionate. And so those are the things that really matter. And it helps. And as I said, always amplify the business story. How has it affected in a positive manner? That's the way to go.
Yeah, that's a message all corporates should know, that hiring these people will be beneficial for their business.
Exactly.
It's not a charity thing, and that's the message you would like to give to the corporates.
Absolutely.
You have represented disability at World Economic Forum, where the world was your audience.
Yeah. Yeah.
How was that experience? Tell us about that.
It was a nerve-wracking experience, Zeba, because I was actually selected in 2012 as a young global leader by the World Economic Forum. They select 100 people every year around the world under the age of 40, who have probably contributed in a meaningful manner, achieved some level of success. I was very fortunate that I was also selected as one of the 100 people around the world. And out of that, a few people, maybe I think 7 or 8 people out of that 100 are even selected for a talk, which I don't know, they've probably branded it differently, which is for around 5 minutes. So you it's a much more shorter version of a TED talk. For a TED talk, you get 18 minutes. For this particular talk at World Economic Forum in Davos, you get 4.5 minutes. And I can tell you, it's much easier to do a longer talk, much harder to do a shorter talk.
Short one.
There's a beautiful, I think it was Mark Twain who wrote this beautifully, saying that, I didn't have the time to write a real good short story, so I wrote a long one. So it's much easier to, I'm kind of paraphrasing that, but it's much easier to do a longer talk, extremely hard to do a short talk. And I had 4.5 minutes. So it was a nerve-wracking experience. My title of my talk was called "The Ability in Disability." You can do a Google search and see my speech there, and it was very well received. In fact, CNN carried my entire speech verbatim the next day worldwide, and so that was a huge force to amplify the message. And I really spoke about just what I said, that hiring people with disabilities makes business sense. And Davos is where all the world CEOs actually actually come together. And so it was very coincidence that my CEO of SAP was also at Davos, and he read the news and he asked me and said, Ferose, I didn't know you were doing this in Bangalore. Have you been doing it? I said, yes, I've been doing it for the last 1.5 years. I never told anybody. So I said, better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. So I just said, I felt it was the right thing to do. I did it. And he was so impressed that he decided to make this a worldwide strategic objective for SAP. And now, as I said, more than 100 companies have an autism at work program.
Hats off to you, Firoz. Hats off to you.
थैंक यू. मैं तो यही बोलता हूँ कि
यार
नीयत अच्छी होनी चाहिए, फिर बाकी सब अपने आप हो जाएगा.
रास्ते ऊपर वाला बनाता है. That's true.
बिल्कुल.
But what triggered you to make think that you need to go ahead with this project of employing people with a special need?
You
There
know,
might be something.
yeah. So there was this, when I was like everybody, I was trying to understand after my son's diagnosis, what are the challenges that parents face. So I spoke to a lot of parents like you and many others. I was talking to parents and like, what is your number one challenge? And it's pretty clear that the number one challenge that almost everybody told me was the question, which is, what happens to my child after I'm gone? This is the biggest question that every parent has to worry about when they go to bed. कि अगर कल मैं उठा नहीं तो मेरे बच्चे का क्या होगा, right? And this is a lingering issue that everybody faces. And I was trying to understand कि ये problem क्यों आता है, लोग ये क्यों सोचते हैं, why do they think this question? And obviously the answer to that was because the children are not independent, right? So मैं सोचा कि independence क्यों नहीं है? And that's when I realized कि because many of these children cannot have meaningful employment, because through meaningful employment you have financial independence, you are able to go out, you are able to take care of yourself. And so employment was a fundamental reason towards solving that problem, right? If you're employed, then
Mm,
you're independent. If you're independent, you can take care of yourself, which means that you're not depending on your parents. And of course, disability has comes in all shapes, right? I mean, there are some who cannot take care of themselves, but there are many who can. And so that's when I realized that the society has a very high bar when it comes to people with disabilities. Ki if a person with disability has to get a job, it's very, very hard. And when I looked at the data around the world, in the world itself, 90% of the people with disabilities have no meaningful employment. I mean, they're doing sometimes small work here and there, but it's not meaningfully employed. And so for me, it was very important to solve that problem. And one of the ways I thought was, why are people not employed in our workforce? And that's the reason I started uh, with hiring as a problem that I wanted to solve. But that's when I realized, okay, hiring is just one part of the problem. There's so many other issues that you need to solve. You have to education becomes a big challenge, and healthcare insurance becomes a big challenge. Assisted living is so important, especially if you grow older. So it's a whole
right.
lot of issues. But I started with employment because I was heading SAP and I felt I could do a little bit towards employing people with disabilities. मैंने कोई दुनिया बदलने का सोच नहीं किया था. मुझे अभी भी लोग पूछते हैं कि आपने इतना कुछ कैसे कर दिया. मैं यार उस समय मैं ही चाहता था कि 3 लोगों को नौकरी दे दूं. If 3 people can be employed, I would have been happy. I never thought now that thousands of people will ever be employed through the program that we started. So yeah, I don't want to take too much credit for it. ये तो ऊपर वाले की
But
blessings.
you have created this ripple, and that ripple fell right to all the corporate houses and everywhere.
I agree that the ripple of what started has reached out.
Yeah.
Again, this as well as I always say, there's always an invisible hand जो
Mm,
ये सब possible करता है. So I don't want to take too much credit for it. अच्छी बात है, लोगों को opportunities मिल रही है, मैं उसमें बहुत खुश हूँ.
that's your modesty. Now, Firoz, I'd like to take one question from the viewer.
Sure.
She wants to know ki, are the remote job opportunities available for non-IT high functioning
Yeah.
adult on ASD?
Yeah. Very, very good question. हमने जो most of the work that we've looked today in the autism space has been in IT, and I fully agree with that. And I think we'll have to change that. But I can tell you that there are a lot of non-IT. I mean, I'll give you one example because to my work in specialist turn, we found something very interesting. Ki, Australia, mein, we had a lot of people for pig farming. It's very interesting, and the reason pig farming worked, and this was again pure coincidence, is that many of the people on the autism spectrum loved animals,
Hmm.
and they would love to be in the company of animals, and they were able to understand the animals better than many others. They were able to sense discomfort in animals before other people realized. And most of the farms were also in many ways isolated places, so they didn't have to deal with too many people. And this happened because the CEO of this massive pig farming in Australia had a child on the autism spectrum. So many of it was pretty accidental. कि लोगों ने सोचा and it happened and they've hired many people on the autism spectrum. So one of my core belief is that there is an opportunity in every sector. We have to just discover it. मैं आईटी में था बोल के मुझे I understood IT and so I could start hiring people on the IT sector. But doesn't mean that there is no opportunity in other sectors. We have to find it. We have to search for it. I believe that because of COVID, at least many people on the autism spectrum are actually now able to do a lot more work because initially क्या होता था when, for example, people had to move to Bangalore if they had to work at SAP. Now you don't have to. You can actually deliver work remotely. But of course, there is a sense of discipline that is needed to make that happen. So I think opportunities are always there. They are there in every sector. We haven't discovered it yet. I know about IT because I've spent a lot of time there, but I've also seen various use cases of non-IT people. I think there's a role for everybody in every possible sector.
Right. We need to explore that.
We need to explore, we need to discover. This doesn't happen automatically. कोई ला के
Hmm.
देगा नहीं ये कि चलो आ जाओ. You have to fight for
Explore
it.
it.
You
Yeah.
have to do the right things.
My last question to you. Tell us about your another initiative, India Inclusion Summit, which has entered its 10th year now,
Yeah.
and its impact on the society.
So the reason I started this was thanks to my mentor, Dr. Arun Shauri, whom, as you know, is a legendary
Right.
politician. I think one of the greatest scholars alive today. He has a son. His name is Adit, who's profoundly disabled, and he had written this beautiful book called "Does He Know a Mother's Heart," where he stands for God. So, does he know a mother's heart? Where he was trying to understand ki, what does religions talk about disability? Why do you and me have a disabled child while many others don't? क्यों है? इस्लाम क्या कहती है? क्रिश्चियनिटी क्या कहती है? Hinduism क्या कहती है? Buddhism क्या कहती है? So she wanted to explore that. So it come to SAP and I had hosted him for a talk. और उस टाइम मैंने पूछा कि सर how do we change the narrative of disability in India? And he said, Feroze, आप एक प्लेटफॉर्म क्रिएट करो जहां we will celebrate people's differences. ये नहीं कि taboo है, ऐसा नहीं है कि हम बात नहीं करेंगे, but do it at a scale that people will understand disability and celebrate it.
Wow.
And मैंने India Inclusion Summit start किया क्योंकि उस time there was no event focusing entirely on disability. Disability was part of one small section in a large event. And मैंने बोला नहीं नहीं मुझे पूरा इवेंट ही डिसेबिलिटी पे करना है और it should be as good as a TED event. It has to be world class. It has to get the best people. And so हमने वो स्टार्ट किया 2012 में. We've done it for 9 years. इस साल 10th year था हम नहीं कर पाए because of COVID. But while it started with very modest aims, it is now the world's largest platform for people with disabilities. Though it runs for 2 full days, but we have a fellowship that runs for an entire week. Typically 800 to 1,000 people attend it. Person Bangalore में होती है. Uh, and so I know you asked me why not other places. Um,
Right.
but we've started in Bangalore because that's where we have a lot of volunteers. In fact, most of the work started because of volunteers from SAP and beyond, and that's why we started in Bangalore. So that is our goal, to spread awareness, to celebrate differences, to connect a lot of people. जो लोग वहाँ आते हैं, a lot of they make a lot of connections, and really to amplify the stories of people with disabilities. Again, इस book के through देवा मैं यही कहना चाहता हूँ कि बहुत अच्छा काम हो रहा है. As I said, I've spent 10 years in the sector. I probably know a lot of people who are doing great work. And I said कि यार इसके बारे में लिखते क्यों नहीं है कोई? इतना अच्छा काम कर रहा है. मैं आपको ही देखता हूँ. I've known you now for just a week, but I'm just amazed at how much you are able to do for the community.
Thank you. Thank
Even
you.
though you have a special needs child, and we all understand how hard it is to deal with a child on the spectrum, लेकिन you're still doing so much for the community. So बहुत अच्छा काम हो रहा है, और मैं चाहता था कि इस अच्छे काम के बारे में भी लोगों को बताएं. And so that was the mission of the summit. That is also the mission of the book. We put the spotlight on people who are doing incredible work. मैं तो ऐसे और 5 किताब लिख सकता हूँ, क्योंकि इतने सारे स्टोरीज हैं. मैं माफी चाहता हूँ कि मैं सबके बारे में नहीं लिख पाया, लेकिन hopefully मैं through this book we are able to put a little bit of spotlight on a topic that requires attention.
That's good. Firoz, with this, we have come to an end of this session. And we have got so many things to learn from you, your life, your book, your experiences. मुझे लगता है आपको दोबारा इनवाइट करना होगा. And you
आप
have to take out time
नो
to
आप
again.
कभी भी इनवाइट करें, मैं आ जाऊंगा. आप लोगों की प्यार है और दुआएं हैं जिसके कारण मैं कर पा रहा हूँ. मुझे कभी कभी लोग पूछते हैं कि तुम इतना कुछ कैसे कर लेते हो. मैं बोलता हूँ कि द पावर ऑफ गिविंग इज दैट इट इज रीजेनरेटिव. आप जब
Right.
लोगों के लिए जब कुछ करते हो, उसमें आपका एनर्जी कम नहीं होता, आपका एनर्जी बढ़ता है. इट इज रीजेनरेटिव, राइट? सो आप कभी भी बुलाइए, मैं आऊंगा. आपके आपके लिसनर्स के लिए मैं ऑलवेज अवेलेबल हूँ. प्लीज फील टू कॉल मी एनी टाइम एंड आई विल ऑलवेज टॉक टू यू.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
थैंक यू.
You are
थैंक
so busy being a head of a SAP and you are promising कि I'll come any day you invite me.
बिल्कुल आऊंगा. मैं अपना प्रॉमिस बिल्कुल रखता हूँ.
We are really honored and privileged कि आप आज हमारे platform पे आए. And I want to thank Mr. Manoj Krishnan, also the founder of Asian Literary Society, who has taken this initiative and he has included a special need as a part of its social initiative.
बहुत अच्छी बात है ये.
And
Again, I would say hats off to Asia Literary Society, because आप लोगों को ये सब करना बहुत अच्छी बात है, because you're able to mainstream it. So hats off to you and ESL for setting this up. As I said, I'm always available.
Firoz, when I joined this ALS, I was not sure whether those authors and poets, they will listen to me or not. But right from the first session, I felt so much included with them, and they have accepted me and my cause with open heart.
Yeah.
And everybody, they feel so good कि ज़ेबा आपका सेशन बहुत अच्छा है. It was so enlightening.
नहीं देखो ज़ेबा, मैंने तो ये देखा है, and I'll tell this कि दुनिया में अच्छे लोग ज्यादा है. बुरे लोग तो अच्छे बुरे सब होते हैं, लेकिन अच्छे लोग बहुत सारे हैं. इसीलिए ये दुनिया चल रही है, even with all its limitations and challenges and the negative news that we hear. I think there are good people doing good work with good intentions. और मैंने ये देखा है, honestly, if I've understood the disability sector, it is really made progress because of the power of women. और मैं इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ कि women like you and many others have really championed it, क्योंकि women का एक है कि they are, उनका जो cause के प्रति जो passion है, that's unparalleled. And most of the people I've covered in the book, and if you look at the disability sector, have been championed by women. A lot of them are mothers who have a personal reason to contribute, and that is उनका जो strength है, उनकी जो blessings है, that is just unsurmountable. So more power to you, more power to a lot of people who are working in this space.
And same to you. More power to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You have touched so many lives.
Thank you so much. All the best to you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us your valuable time and joining us at the early morning. I think it's 5:30 a.m. in California. It's a winter morning.
Yeah, it is early morning,
Thank
but all for a good reason. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. And I'm ending this session with the slogan of the Global Disability Movement, which I read in your book. Nothing about us without us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you. Take care. Bye bye. See you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye bye. See you.